Welcome back to part 2 of Muay Thai scoring. In part 1, if you missed it, we went over scoring criteria, general scoring, what's a scoring advantage, disadvantage, the point system, and traditional Muay Thai. And with part 2, we're going to start with entertainment Muay Thai. Now, if you missed part 1, I highly suggest you go listen to part 1 first before listening to part 2. So a lot of these pieces are going to make sense for you in part 2. If you only listen to the part 2, you might not have the context to some of the things. So yes, go ahead and listen to part 1 and then come back and listen to this part 2. Okay, entertainment Muay Thai. The feeling out and dance off rounds that are a hallmark of traditional Muay Thai, they're being phased out by entertainment Muay Thai promotions. In an effort to make Muay Thai more exciting for TV audiences, so by TV audiences, I don't mean just like Muay Thai fans who are looking for Muay Thai, but also just the regular person who turns on the TV and is like, oh, look, this looks interesting, let me watch this. Some promotions, such as One Championship, Muay Thai Super Champ, Fairtex Fight, Rajadamnern World Series, use a 3-round format with different scoring criteria, resulting in what's considered entertainment Muay Thai. These fights are faster paced. There's less emphasis on kind of feeling out and building up to something and more focus on immediate action. This encourages action from beginning of the fight to the very end of the fight. And as a result, this type of rule set tends to favor aggressive, high-volume fighters. Entertainment Muay Thai scores every single round. So whilst factors like effective strikes, ring control, and defense remain important, they're assessed within the context of each individual round. The judges are required to follow a 10-point must system. This system came about to be a standardized way to judge each round independently, with the cumulative points at the end determining the overall winner, as opposed to traditional Muay Thai where a fight is usually judged as a whole. Now, these entertainment Muay Thai, I would say like 95% of the time, they are 3 rounds, but they can sometimes be 5 rounds for title fights. Fighters who engage in the feeling out process or the dance off rounds, they're warned immediately by the referee to engage in the action ASAP. So then if the fighters are trying to do the feeling out or the dance off, the referee will grab both of their gloves and bring them in real close and then tell them inside like, hey, you gotta pick it up. There needs to be action. You guys need to be active and do something. Pros and cons of each. So by each, I mean traditional Muay Thai and entertainment Muay Thai. Until fairly recently, Muay Thai was deeply associated with poverty and hardship. And this is because fighters, they come from rural backgrounds that are plagued with poverty. Their parents are probably also in poverty. And fighting is often seen as a last resort for those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Fighters and trainers, many grew up in challenging conditions and turned to the sport as means of survival, just for economic means. And especially since like starting from when they're kids, they can start making money for their families, even if it's not much. This poverty background contributed to a social stigma surrounding Muay Thai in Thailand, leading people from the wealthier classes in Thailand to distance themselves from the sport and its practitioners. Like, oh, I don't want to be part of this. Traditional Muay Thai is for poor people. However, with the recent rise in popularity of entertainment Muay Thai and also with people who are from well-off families getting more involved in Muay Thai, when it comes to like managing fighters or running gyms or taking over gyms from their fathers, this recent rise in popularity of entertainment Muay Thai, it's begun to shift these views on traditional Muay Thais for poor people. Because with the involvement of celebrities and increased media attention, the sport is starting to gain mainstream momentum within Thailand. Now, some of you at this point might be asking, but isn't like Muay Thai the national sport of Thailand? It might be on paper because it is something that's bred in Thailand. However, if you look at the whole population, not everyone is interested in it. A huge majority of the population, they don't even train. Some of them have never even watched a fight. So because the sport is starting to gain some momentum, this has opened up new financial opportunities for fighters. and it's helping to bring Muay Thai to a broader audience. There are concerns among people who love traditional Muay Thai. Their main concern is that this trend with growing entertainment Muay Thai is diluting the sport's traditional values, styles, techniques, and the prize fight IQ of these top cream of the crop fighters. And I guess the root of all of this, of why traditional Muay Thai fans and traditional Muay Thai enthusiasts, is that entertainment Muay Thai prioritizes action over technique or even skill sometimes. Fighters in entertainment promotions are encouraged to be aggressive from the first round to the last, and judges they're frequently rewarding like high energy exchanges over technical control. That plus usually in entertainment style Muay Thai, there generally is less clinching. You see a lot more long clinching with traditional Muay Thai where the judges will let the clinch go for a very long time. But for entertainment style, if you're not like immediately throwing knees or throwing elbows in the clinch, the ref is going to break up the clinch. So this shift over aggression, high energy exchanges over technical control and fight IQ at times, this can result in sloppier, less refined fights. Finesse, strategy, they take backseat to entertainment, hence the name Entertainment Muay Thai. And this is especially so when there's an added monetary incentive for fighters that get knockouts. On the other hand, creators of entertainment Muay Thai promotions, they want to counter the influence that gambling has had on Muay Thai. They also recognize that casual viewers usually do not appreciate the slower pace that traditional Muay Thai has. So again, turning on the TV or actively going to a Muay Thai stadium, the casual person is probably not going to sit down and watch Channel 7 from beginning to end because there is a lot of inaction. To appeal to a wider audience, especially internationally, entertainment style shortens the rounds to typically just 3 instead of 5, and it emphasizes more immediate action. So people who like just seeing things happen tend to be drawn into this. And then in terms of like casual fans or trying to get fans who have no previous exposure to Muay Thai, this is their way of thinking. This is how they're going to get more people looped in. Understanding the differences in traditional versus entertainment scoring influences a fighter's pace during the fight. And some fighters can even change their style to better suit the scoring criteria. Not all traditional 5-round stadium fighters have done well at transitioning to entertainment Muay Thai. A prime example of this is Sing Money. Sing Money did amazing as a traditional Muay Thai fighter in the stadiums under the traditional Muay Thai rule set, but when he started fighting on like One Lumpini, RWS, that kind of high pace, fighting a lot of people with heavy punches, his style doesn't shine. His strengths do not shine. And this is also the case vice versa. The fighters that do really well at entertainment Muay Thai, if you put them into a traditional Muay Thai rule set, not all of them are going to do well. The most famous example of this is Buakaw. Buakaw, he didn't have a name in Thailand because he just was an average fighter in the traditional Muay Thai scene. He was kind of a nobody. And he didn't gain any recognition until he went overseas to fight K1 in Japan. And K1 is kickboxing, is, faster paced and stuff. And then because a lot of people were watching K1 back in the day, then he eventually became kind of like this ambassador of Muay Thai. Even though he wasn't fighting Muay Thai, but because of his Muay Thai background and him using a lot of like Muay Thai techniques and then Muay Thai middle kick, he did bring a lot of international attention to Muay Thai. And I don't know Buakaw personally, but I can kind of assume with what I know about him and what I know about the scoring systems is, so you guys know Buakaw has said multiple times that he does not fight Thais. And he's said this for quite a long time now. And my belief is because he knows that he's going to be dragged into these waters where he can't swim well in, that he has tried to come up in before and this is just not his strength. His strength is entertainment. Superlek is one of the few fighters that have done extremely well going back and forth between traditional and entertainment Muay Thai. When he was first signed to One Championship, he was still going to fight in the stadiums every now and then, and he was able to just switch off really well. He came up in the stadiums in traditional Muay Thai, and then he really adapted his high fight IQ style, his timing to entertainment Muay Thai with the small gloves, and he's even dabbling in kickboxing now. Now, whether or not you think what is better, is, of course, it's subjective. Both have its pros and the cons, but I do want you to take what I'm about to say into account. Traditionally, so before the days of like one championship, only the most elite and top of the top Muay Thai stadium fighters could earn a substantial living from fighting. Meaning if you weren't top of the top, if you were in the middle, if you were average, or if you were on the bottom, you were not making a decent living from fighting. Strict ranking systems and selective matchmaking often meant that the fighters who weren't at the top failed to secure fight opportunities, and this leads to their financial struggles even after they retire from being fighters. After they retire from being fighters, they become trainers, and we know that trainers in Thailand, they get paid like next to nothing. However, the rise of entertainment focused Muay Thai, it's changed this landscape. Now both top tier stadium fighters that are considered high fight IQ, high quality in terms of traditional Muay Thai views, and also those with exciting, just pure exciting styles, they both have opportunities now to earn very lucrative incomes. Muay Thai, it's a valuable means to an end for almost all Thai fighters, as opposed to like me and probably you listening, where we pursued this because we loved it and it was like a passion of ours. We probably didn't pursue to get rich, right? For them, it's the opposite. They pursue this to try to make a decent living. Remember that fighting in Thailand is primarily driven by economic factors. Fighters, coaches, gyms, gym managers will naturally follow where the money is. The financial rewards, whether it's through the fight purses, sponsorships, other opportunities, they are life-changing for many fighters. So say what you will about whichever style of fighting you like better, but hopefully now you understand that wherever the big paydays are, the fighters are going to follow. We saw this also several years ago with kickboxing. When Glory Kickboxing was huge, the Chinese kickboxing promotions were inviting a lot of international fighters, and a lot of Thai Muay Thai fighters transitioned over to kickboxing because there's just more money in it. But not all of them did well. Now, let's talk about scoring in Thailand versus out of Thailand. Thailand scoring, there's a huge focus on technique and control. Fights in Thailand also have some unwritten rules that judges follow. And here are some examples of these unwritten rules. Visible fatigue is often interpreted as a lack of strength, a lack of conditioning, or a lack of resilience, or all of the three. And this can affect fighters' scoring in Thailand. So if a fighter looks like out of breath, gasping for air during the fight, at the end of the round, this is going to affect them very negatively. Judges value posture and body language. Fighters who appear unfazed by strikes usually get the benefit of the doubt. But if a fighter is at the receiving end of a kick or a punch or whatever, and it seems to bother them a lot, then the judges will naturally see whoever threw the strike like, oh, this is more effective striking. The difference between the fighters beginning a fight and ending a fight are also taken into account. For example, a fighter that starts strong but finishes the fight just so exhausted is not as favored as the fighter that starts out okay but finishes the fight strong. Learning from mistakes throughout the fight can work in a fighter's favor, especially if we're talking about 5-round fights from rounds like 2 to 4. So for example, if I'm fighting someone and they keep catching me with this one thing, they keep catching me with this one thing in this one round. Okay, the next round, if I start blocking it, if I start evading it, if I start nullifying this technique that I was previously getting caught in, this will work heavily in my favor because it shows fight IQ. Aggression is not as heavily valued as the control, technique, and balance that I had just discussed. Now, scoring outside of Thailand is a mixed bag, and I had talked about this in the first part where there's just so many places that have Muay Thai, so many sanctioning bodies, so many organizations. So therefore, scoring is going to vary drastically from place to place. Each sanctioning body has its own set of rules. Some organizations follow a system that leans a little bit more traditional, and some others place a higher value on aggression and volume, similar to entertainment style Muay Thai. And it is also worth mentioning at this point that scoring outside of Thailand probably is the way it is due to most sanctioning bodies basing their models off of boxing, because boxing as a fighting sport outside of Thailand, most places outside of Thailand came first. So when you can see how boxing, especially amateur boxing, is scored, it's kind of easier to understand why some promotions outside Thailand score the way they do. Again, it's best to refer to each sanctioning or each promotion's criteria in order to understand what they're looking for, what the judges are looking for, and what they're going to favor. Look for these rules and judging criteria online. And if none exist online, shoot an email to the sanctioning body, be like, I'm trying to better understand how a fighter can win fights when you sanction a body. I'm trying to understand how to score fights better, things like that. Trying to apply that Thailand model that I had spoken about in length already, trying to apply this Thailand model of scoring to a sanctioning body that primarily looks over like MMA or kickboxing or boxing. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole and vice versa. This is what trips up professional Thai fighters and their trainers when they go overseas to fight for the first time. Like when they go to Europe or the US to fight on a Muay Thai show and they're like, what? I won the fight. They robbed me. And also vice versa, when American, European fighters who are used to fighting Muay Thai in their home countries and they find Thailand for the first time, they're like, I thought I won the fight, but they didn't give it to me. And now this is not to rag on judges outside of Thailand, but just from what I've seen, judges outside of Thailand, they're not always on the same page when it comes to the nuances of Muay Thai techniques, especially if we're talking about the clinch. Judges with limited Muay Thai experience, so by experience I mean training, competing, or both, they don't fully understand the intricacies of balance, posture, power and strikes. As a result, questionable decisions and inconsistent judging also tends to happen more outside of Thailand. Whereas in Thailand, the officials have decades of experience watching, competing, training, judging Muay Thai fights. So yes, while bad decisions do occasionally happen, for the most part, judges are on the same page in Thailand. So as a summary of this section, generally speaking, scoring outside of Thailand values aggression and volume over effectiveness, control, technique, defense, and balance. Now, amateur versus professional scoring. While this podcast episodes, they have primarily focused on professional scoring so far, it's also worth mentioning the amateur scoring system, especially since countries like the US, they have such a huge amateur scene and not so much a professional scene. In amateur Muay Thai, the focus is on accumulating points through volume. Fighters are usually required to wear protective gear. So other than boxing gloves, we're talking about headgear, shin guards, elbow pads if elbows are allowed. And points are awarded for the number of strikes landed rather than the damage they cause. Although some organizations may award a very specific effect to be weighed more in the judging process. So for example, when I was still fighting amateur back in the US a long time ago, the main sanctioning body at the time, the judges told us that if you knocked someone's head back with a punch, that alone is going to be weighed very heavily. So that's just an example. As you're doing your research, I'm curious to see what you guys learn about your own local sanctioning bodies and if they have any interesting things such as this. If they do, please let me know. I would love to know. And the focus of amateur Muay Thai is to encourage skill development while minimizing injury. And this is in contrast to professional Muay Thai, where the judges are prioritizing power, technique, and damage over just sheer volume. Now, of course, with this, there's a caveat. Not all sanctioning bodies have an amateur rule set and a professional rule set. They don't have amateur criteria with professional criteria. Some sanctioning bodies, they just have, boom, one criteria for both amateur and professional fights. So again, please refer to the sanctioning body in question if you want to know more about this. Okay, now onto the topic of fouls. So I will go over fouls that are fouls all across the board, no matter where you are, and fouls that might be considered fouls in certain situations and might not be considered fouls in other situations, and then also some gray area stuff. So here are some fouls across the board. Headbutting. So deliberately using your head to hit your opponent. This is not left way. This is Muay Thai. Biting. You're not allowed to bite any part of your opponent. Eye gouging. This is more for Muay Thai MMA gloves. Poking, gouging the opponent's eyes, especially on purpose. Striking the back of the head slash targeting the spine. There is a huge risk of injury. So targeting the back of the head or the spine obviously is not allowed. However, sometimes opponents are in the process of turning and they have their back towards them, or they turn on purpose to because they're scared or whatever it is. And in these cases, because the opponent turns themselves, then it's not your fault because you were just happening to throw something and then they turn their back. Soccer kicks. So a soccer kick is hitting the opponent who has at least one glove touching the canvas. So if someone is on their way falling down towards the canvas, on their way going down but not yet down, kicking or kneeing them in the process of going down is not a foul, as long as that glove has not touched the floor. Once that glove touches the floor, anything that you land on them is a foul. And it's important to note that these kind of soccer kicks, they're not always on purpose. Sometimes they are really just pure accidents because muscle memory and people just kind of doing things that they do in training all the time as a reaction without realizing, oh, this person's hands are on the floor. Grabbing the ropes to gain an advantage, so grabbing the ropes with the gloves is also not allowed. At traditional Muay Thai fights with gamblers, if a fighter is grabbing the rope with the glove or hooking the rope with the elbow, the gamblers will immediately say, oh, chill, 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 which is rope in Thai. They immediately call out the rope grabbing. Gamblers hate it when people do this. Leg hooks are not allowed across the board. So sweeping techniques using the back of the leg. So the back of the leg includes the heel, the calf. Sweeping techniques using any parts of the back of the leg are prohibited. Hip throws are not allowed in Muay Thai. So think of like a judo throw where you're using your hips to lift and throw someone to the ground. Any techniques that involve lifting your opponent up, then throwing are also not allowed. So those kind of back-breaking dumps, they're not allowed. Although sometimes the ref will let it go if you do it fast enough. So this can be gray area, but most of the times in a lot of rules meetings, it has been said that this is not allowed. And disobeying the ref. So usually this is an accumulation, like it's shown to be a habit throughout the fight. And this can include ignoring warnings against fouls, delaying the fight, or refusing to break a clinch. If a fighter repeatedly disobeys the ref, they may be penalized with a point deduction, deduction of purse, or even just disqualified from the fight. Fouls that are dependent on the sanctioning or promotion or the location. Groin strikes. Now, I had actually recently posted this very short Instagram video. It's like, hey guys, reminder to teep kick higher than the groin area. And a lot of people chimed in and were like defending it. And I said it in the context of training. I'm like, I hope you guys are not defending this for training. But I do want to clear this up in a fight context. Deliberately striking an opponent's groin area, this is kind of a controversial one because in Thailand, knees to the groin are a foul, but kicks, all types of kicks, low kicks, teeps, they're not considered fouls to the groin. It's argued that kicks can be defended against, but knees cannot be. So therefore, some rules meetings in Thailand, they will specifically say that, hey, if you get kicked in the ground, it's not a foul. I'm not going to stop the fight to let you recuperate. If you get kicked in the groin, you're just going to have to deal with it. Rajadamnern, I looked on Rajadamnern Stadium's website, and they seem to not tolerate any type of groin strike officially, but in reality, it's up to the referee. Outside of Thailand, groin strikes are generally considered fouls. I have been at rules meetings in the US for shows that mostly have like amateur fights, maybe some pro fights. And they usually say like all your strikes need to either be on the legs or above the belt. So another thing that can be considered a foul is you catch the kick and you step. Some promotions will say you can only take maximum one step after you catch the kick. Sometimes a promotion will say you could take a maximum of 2 steps after catching the kick, and then you have to do something. And then you have to let it go. You have to throw a kick. You have to throw a knee. You can't keep stepping and just walking all around the ring with your opponent's leg in your arm. However, some refs will warn the fighters from taking multiple steps and some won't. Breaking the back, I had mentioned this earlier. So it's when you have your arms around your opponent's waist and you squeeze them hard where they kind of lose their posture and they lose their balance, and then you drive them either backward or to the side in order to throw them. And a lot of sanctioning bodies have specifically said that this is not allowed. I know one championship doesn't allow it. However, in a lot of traditional Muay Thai settings, I've never seen a ref say to a fighter, hey, you can't do that. Instep sweeps. Now, instep is the inner part of your foot. Some sanctioning bodies do not allow fighters to sweep into instep. Some of my friends who are fighting amateur in the US, they're telling me now that more and more sanctioning bodies are saying that you can't do sweeps with your instep now. I had trouble finding specific criteria published online regarding this. The only thing that I found was from IKF, but IKF does kickboxing, so you can't sweep in kickboxing anyway. And what's actually really interesting is that some promotions in Thailand are also starting to adopt this. I know, right? Like Thailand of all places where sweeps are like, come on, they're like masterclass in Thailand. I think they announced this almost a year ago. One of the trainers showed me a post in Thai where they were considering discussing this rule change for Muay Thai all across the board by the Sports Authority of Thailand. And they're saying they're starting to just allow the front part of a fighter's leg to do the damage, not the sides. So I haven't really seen this being enforced consistently. I have seen it in person, like sometimes at Rajadamnern, where a fighter will perform a sweep with using their instep, and then the ref will be like, hey, and then they'll motion with their like, you can't sweep like that. So some refs are more strict and they will issue these warnings while clearly demonstrating that there was a potential foul at hand. And then others, they won't say anything, they're more lenient, even on the same event, same show. Now, gray area considerations. When it comes to fouls, whether they're intentional or not, fighters will receive a warning from the ref first without being disqualified most of the time. Some fighters will then kind of take this leeway, if you will, to their advantage. And they will do everything, even things that they know are explicitly against the rules. I know someone that did judo throws because they didn't really know how to clinch and stuff. She was part of an amateur tournament. She's like, yeah, I just did it until the ref told me to stop, and then I stopped doing it. People who have been in a particular region's fight circuit long enough to know how certain referees work. They will know that some referees give a lot of warnings, some referees are a lot more lenient, some allow long clinch times while others break up the clinch almost immediately. So this can create a kind of inconsistent gray area with what might be considered a foul or judging disadvantage in one fight, and these fouls slash judging disadvantages may be overlooked in another fight with a different ref on the same show. Now, foul considerations between amateur and professional Muay Thai. Let's talk about elbows. Not all amateur Muay Thai fights include elbows, and these will be under what's called modified Muay Thai rules. And this is usually for the safety of very new fighters. If elbows are allowed, whether amateur or pro, certain types of elbows may be prohibited in some areas. For example, that 12-6 elbow, so it goes up then down, or it can be in a variation of dropping or spiking. They're not allowed in the US. Also for MMA in the US too, because of how much a fighter can bleed if they get cut with this kind of elbow. Some locations will modify the rules even further for junior fighters and not allow junior fighters to strike to the head. So if you stuck with me so far for these 2 episodes, thank you for sticking with me. Muay Thai scoring can be so complex. We discuss how it varies between locations, promotions, judge experience. For fighters, knowledge of Muay Thai scoring is essential for competing effectively. By understanding what the judges prioritize, you can tailor your approach to align with their criteria and increase your chances of winning. Context matters, and it matters a lot. For fans and spectators, understanding Muay Thai scoring helps you appreciate the intricacies of the sport, its subsets of rules, and to accurately determine the winner. While occasional bad decisions may occur, a solid understanding of the rule set can help you distinguish between genuine errors from the officials and the promotion side and subjective judgment calls from your side. I hope that this has been incredibly insightful. This has been as comprehensive as I can get it, minus the point about the gambling, which I will release in a future article and podcast episode. Let me know what you've learned, what I have helped to open your eyes up to. Let me know if there's something that varies very differently from what you're used to. And yeah, as always, if you have any questions, let me know. Happy to answer them. Reach out to me through any of my social media channels or through email. And if you found this episode really helpful, please share this with your friends. I'd love to get this podcast, get the momentum going for this. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.